Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining ADHD Time on Air. Today, I have a colleague, a friend, an author, an educator, an amazing parent, and
Oh,
a founder of the ADHD Center of West Michigan, and also the author of these two amazing books behind me, which I'm doing my best not to hold because apparently you guys in the audience told me I fidget with them. So I'm going to let
go figure.
Tamara go figure, right? I'm going to let Tamara introduce herself and tell us a bit more about what we should know about you.
Well, I've been looking forward to talking to you because I
Oh,
love going on podcasts with really smart women. That's so much fun. And smart ADHD women. And so I've been looking forward to this.
oh, thank you.
Okay, so here's something new. I am now officially a grandmother.
Mazel tov,
So
congratulations.
thank you. And my grandma name, in case you guys are wondering, because I get is Gran, just kind of GRAN. You know,
There you go. I love it.
no
That's a
no
great choice.
silliness for this one. Yeah. And if everyone's like, oh, but if he calls you Gigi and I'm like, nope, I send it back. So I have strict rules, no silliness with my names. No, I'm being tongue in cheek. It's a little boy named Harris, and it's just been amazing watching my daughter become a mother. And it's lovely. And I'm just so happy. So that's the new
Oh,
thing about me.
that is so exciting. Um, I'm going to go on a total tangent, but I did once a podcast about how grandparents can support their kids with ADHD because I think there's an
Yeah.
amazing space we have, and knowing how genetic this is. I'm sure you think about these things deeply because you look at families and this is your cup of tea. But I think a lot about that things we can do
Yeah.
better that
Yeah.
wasn't given to us. Those conversations
Yes.
around the
Yeah.
table and those opportunities to support our children and our grandchildren in a
Mm.
different way. So, how are you approaching this grandparent stage of life?
Well, now my son in law does not have ADHD. So this kid has a
Jackpot.
shot. Yep. I'm always like, you married well, kiddo. But mom has ADHD. And my daughter has ADHD, obviously, donated by my genetics. And I've been just trying to support her right now. I know that a lot of times new mothers, she had a very difficult birth, and
Mm.
she is the kind who really prepared almost like it was an athletic event. She's a former athlete. So she was a little sad that it didn't go the way she had expected. The baby was face up, which is a very difficult
Oh,
birth.
yeah.
So she was a little disappointed in herself. And I think you know this. We have expectations, and when they go unmet, we start to create the stories, right? She had a lot of damage from birth. And so she started to create the story like, will I ever feel better? Did I do this wrong somehow? And so I've been
Mm.
really just trying to support mom through all this right now. Because I
That's
got to tell you,
amazing.
little boy, he has three aunts who are just in love with him. And he's already he's just 5 weeks old, and already he's clocking the socialness of it,
Oh,
and it's just he's going to be a little prince. So that boy's going to be fine, but I wanted to make sure my daughter just felt loved and supported.
I love that. The love and support is a great kind of thing to put in the equation and a number one kind of in front of you. I
Yeah.
felt that I felt that love and support you have for your people and your family throughout all your books. And I feel that
Oh,
also
thank you.
just seeing you interacting, like I know I met you and your daughter once and seeing you live also, that compassion coming first as your first emotion, as your first response. And
Mm.
I love it. And I know you tried to teach us to switch blame with compassion. So I'm gonna go with out with one of the hardest questions. What tricks do you have to suggest to others to put that compassion and in front of them and switch the shame and the blame with that feeling?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have to tell you, that is the best compliment you could ever give me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. That is the sweetest thing, almost brought me to tears because I do want to live a life that's kind and compassionate. What I didn't realize was I was trying to be kind and compassionate to everyone. except one person. And you know who
Yourself.
that person was? Yep. I wasn't kind and compassionate to me. So the first book, Your Brain's Not Broken, that I wrote, I really felt compelled to write to all the clients I'll never meet and go, you're not broken. It's okay. And the second book was, okay, so now you're in a family and it feels like a drunken goat rodeo. How are you going to be okay in this drunken goat rodeo? So it's not
Yep.
a parenting book. It's a, how do you calm yourself in the midst of this drunken goat rodeo? And so um, now going to actually answer your question. Okay. Um, so the whole way, it's not easy to switch compassion for yourself because you've used really bad motivation to get you this far.
Mm,
So you're a smart woman, you have a PhD with ADHD, and you know you've learned some bad tricks, right?
for sure.
Very naughty,
Yep.
like yelling at yourself, screaming at yourself, and some days just downright hating yourself. Yeah. So I
Yep,
can't
for
just
sure.
say, yeah, just stop using that. Just don't do that anymore. That's not going to work, is it?
No.
So in the second book, I talk about this difference between survival and transformational thinking. Do you mind if we go into that?
No, I love it. I loved it. I highlighted
Okay.
half that episode. I had to buy another book, by the way, because I highlighted so much that like I couldn't read it anymore.
Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. So, if this is kind of, this isn't for everyone. It's for the people who truly want to grow and grow out of this horrible thing that they do to themselves. And
Hmm.
I'm saying not everyone is ready to do that growth, and that's okay. But
Right.
when you're really ready to go, I don't like how I'm treating myself. Oh, and by the way, I used to think, well, it's okay if I treat myself poorly. I treat other people kindly. Except it oozes out. That self-loathing will ooze out. And it does splash on other people. So I had to figure that out. So there's two kinds of ways of thinking. There's the survival mindset, and everything is about you when you have this survival mindset. And
Okay.
you're like, how am I responding? How am I reacting? And then for transformational thinking, you start to realize it's not really all about me and it's a different mindset. And so that was a really long way to answer your question, but we really have to start to get into transformational mindset.
Okay. I like that. I like the idea that there's something we can do because my
Yeah.
default is this is what I am. I'm mean to myself but nice to others, and that switch
Yep.
is a lot about I read your books with my book club. I have a book club called Focus on ADHD Books. It's a free book club that I started as an accountability because I kept on buying these books at the conference and not reading them. I'm talking
Yes.
about the ADHD International Conference, which you're very much involved in. And I love to attend and will be in December if anyone, I'll put the link in there. But I started the book and the book club to help me read these books. And one of the things that came up from it is that I collect the questions they give me. So some of the questions I'm going to give to you now coming from other
Yeah.
people that read the book. And one of the readers, their question was, so where do I start? Like, realistically, if I have a
Yeah.
family that is in overwhelm, I live in an overwhelmed family. Half of us have ADHD, half of us doesn't, or
Yep.
all of us, like, depending who you ask. Um,
Yep.
and he's like, so I got it. He's like, I read the whole book and I don't know
Yeah.
where to start. So what
Yep.
would you recommend to him?
Yep. So I do a lot of family coaching. And so this is what I do. I work with really overwhelmed families. And they're like, listen, if you just sat in our house, you'd think we were all just crazy people running around like we're on fire. And so this is what I do. First, I work with the parents and I teach them a metaphor. And it's the pool metaphor because you've read the second book. And the pool metaphor is just very simply we have to imagine we have a big pool of emotions. And those of us with ADHD, now, first of all, everyone has that pool, right? But those of us with ADHD, we don't have a fence up around the pool and we don't have a lifeguard on duty. And so
Mm,
what happens for us is we fall into the pool and we fall into the pool about dumb things. And so we have to be careful about that.
right.
So I teach the metaphor to the parents. And we don't go into pool rules. We don't go into all the details. We just teach pool awareness at that point. Then their assignment is they go home, call a family meeting and say, hey, listen, we're meeting with this really weird woman who talks about pools. And depending on the age of the kids, we talk about how to do it. If it's teenagers, we talk about it one way. If it's little kids who love Legos, we use Legos. One family had a great big blue blanket they put down as a pool, and they
Oh, that's
acted
cool.
out how they fall into the pool. So we really workshop, how do you teach this metaphor? And then for 3 to 4 weeks, all we're doing is we're just noticing, whoa, I fell into the pool. Ugh, I did it again. And then we start to learn, how do we get out of the pool? Once we're in it, what is our pool plan? And again, we just want to go very, very slowly through this. So what's our pool plan? So our 12-year-old falls into the pool because his sister would give him a chocolate chip cookie. And so how do we get the kid out of the pool? And you know this answer. You don't. You teach the child to swim to the side of the pool.
Right.
But that takes slow building of skills. So we talk about pool plans. All right, looks like you're in the pool. What do you need to do? Because when people are in the pool, and we can be in the pool of big emotions for great things and for bad things,
Right.
right? Like I was in the swimming pool after my grandchild was born. It's like I forgot what I did for a living. I was so far behind on email. I think I still am, to be honest. Um, I was just so joyous. That's big emotion, right? And it's so big that it shut down everything else I do in life. So that's an example of happy, right? Or I can fall into the pool because I got into my car on a hot summer's day and it's too hot and I'm already angry that it's too hot, right?
Right.
That's falling into the pool. Or I could fall into the pool because I'm angry at someone too, right?
Yeah. So I
So
I
yeah.
I love that. I love that metaphor, and I'm going to add that when we were talking in the group, I said I was saying to one of the parents that was saying, "Well, I don't know how not to help my kid," and I said, "Well, did you build stairs or a ladder in your pool? Is there a way out? If you did that, if you built that base, that there's a ladder, there's a step, there's something, then you as a parent did the foundation. Now you need to let them use it. If you showed them once or twice how to make it to the stairs, you need to maybe show them 10 times. So we're not telling you
Yeah.
to push your kid in the pool and let them swim by themselves because that's
Right.
not what you're
No,
saying. I just want to make sure that the listeners
I love
understand
that.
that that is
Yeah.
not the metaphor here.
No.
The metaphor here is you build a good pool. You teach them how to sit in the shallows and then go deeper slowly. You teach them how to come out and then you give them
Yeah.
opportunities to figure it out. But you don't
Oh,
push them
love
in the
that.
pool and you
No,
definitely just don't stand outside if they're really drowning. So yes, this
no.
is where you get a
Yeah.
professional. If your kid keeps on drowning, maybe there's an initial problem. Go to a therapist. Go to a,
Yes.
take medication. Don't
Yeah.
just so the pool as a metaphor does have a lot of, and we loved it. I think we ended up talking about these pools so much that something in one of the AIs thought we had a pool like that we were talking about professional.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for adding that because I am not just saying, hey, sink or swim, kiddo. I
No.
am not, I am a Gen Xer, I understand, but I am not that kind of Gen
No.
Xer, right? And in fact, we don't want to do that. What we would do, it's interesting you say that. If you see your child drowning and you're not a trained expert, go get expert help,
100%.
right? And however, I work with people, and you know this from reading the book, who overfunction for their children.
Yep.
And in other words, their child is feeling in the pool of emotions over a cookie, and they jump in that pool and try to drag the kid out of the pool, right? Or there's dad screaming at the kid for being in the pool.
Right.
Okay, now dad just fell in the pool. So we get these unfortunate pool parties where the whole family's in the pool. Um, I live in Michigan, and something people do this time of year in Michigan is they drive to Florida. Okay. It's a big spot for Michigan people. You can
Mhm.
literally run into a neighbor in Florida. And so it's actually kind of nice staying back in Grand Rapids because everyone's gone to
Right.
Florida. But sometimes people fly, and sometimes they take 4 kids and cram them in a van and drive for 21 hours.
Yeah.
I tell my friends in other countries this, they're like, 21 hours? who can even drive for that long? Well, we
Right.
do that in the States, right? Well, pool parties happen in that van because everyone's tired, cranky. If they're like my kids, they start to smell after about 10 hours. I mean,
Right.
I had all girls, and I was just shocked at how gross that van was, right? That was pool party central. Like, oh, stop touching me. Oh my gosh, your breath is bad. And then people get closer and closer to the pool. We all fall in. Now, um, I was coaching one such family who crammed people in their van, and they literally stopped. And I think it was like a Bob Evans or, a restaurant. And they're like, all right, everyone, we have to talk about the pool. We're all in the pool right now. And even just talking about the pool kind of lightened the mood. And they're like, yeah, we're just all splashing each other. Like, how are we going to get out? You can't tell someone else to get out of the pool, right? You can't
Right.
stand on the sidelines screaming, get out of the pool without falling in yourself. So everyone took a responsibility for themselves, talked about their pool plan. And the rest of the time, the mom said was at least non-hostile, which I'll take.
Yes,
That's a
100%.
good start. Yeah.
Yeah, for family
Yeah.
trips, 100%. We have
Yeah.
a dog. We have a dog that loves to jump into the pool, and whenever my son is, he tries to save him. He thinks his job as the dog is to save my son, even though my son's a great swimmer and is,
Yep.
in the water. He thinks his job is to save him. And we, as family members, each have a different strategy. Some of us just don't let the dog out when we're in the pool. Other of us just put him in the water with us, like you like join the pool on
Yep.
purpose.
Yep.
So we realized when I read the book and we had a conversation at our dinner table about it, we realized that metaphor of like how we react to the dog is also because it was a good
Oh,
example about
yeah.
how each of us reacts differently to each other's pools, kind of like how we each have a different strategy to cope with each other's emotions and to cope with each other, like I might help, like be happy when you come to help me out of the pool, but my kid would push you away because he's a teenager and wants to get out
Yeah.
of the pool by himself. So it was
Right.
a really good like opportunity to take the metaphor one step ahead and kind of talk about how we
Yeah.
react to each other's pools.
Yeah.
I do have to say that we all concluded that he needs a shorter haircut because when he goes in the pool, he gets us all wet. So my action after that conversation was now we gave up. A person comes to my house once a month and gives him a haircut because we just can't like it. So that I had to say thank you to the book because that led to the dog. Like it was this side effect that we didn't think about, right? That you would have
I
never
love
thought
that.
your book would lead to. Okay.
Cause a haircut. You know what? I love those stories so much. Oh,
So,
that's
so
awesome.
I'm going to take this question to you wrote these books and they led somewhere to different people. What did it lead you? How do you feel now about your books and where did it lead you?
It's funny. I told you the first book was kind of that love letter to all the people. And that first book, what almost kind of released some anxiety that I have over people. Just, I need them to know they're not broken because I was actually internalizing a lot of anxiety. Like everyone needs to understand they're fine. Even when you don't feel fine, we have a quirky brain, and you need to understand that.
Right.
The second book was actually, and I'll be really honest, I prefer the second book. Um, it's a deeper book. That was actually a personal journey for me because I wrote a lot about my family growing up. And it was the first time I did that publicly. And
Mm,
so some of the stuff was difficult for me. For example, I had a mother who was a young divorcee with ADHD. And she really was emotionally abusive. I don't think she wanted to be.
right.
See, now that I'm old, I have kindness for her. She didn't do it right, but now I can see she had the emotional turbulence of ADHD. This was the 70s being divorced.
Mm,
That's scary, right? The 70s, women were just getting the ability to have credit cards, right?
right.
So it was very scary for her. And then later, towards the end of the book, I write about how my dad disowned me because I got a divorce. Um, And he hasn't talked to me in almost 20 years. It literally acts like I'm dead to him. And I've gotten to a place with that, and it was hard writing about, but I have gotten to a place of peace with that too. And so that book was like a real it was like, okay, how can I help a family figure out the things that I've figured out, but wish I would have done differently? Like the pool metaphor, how cool would that have been to have when I had kids? How
Right.
cool would it have been to understand that disowning people wasn't appropriate behavior and that I wasn't a horrible person? Now, how
Yep.
cool would it have been to understand how to repair relationships differently? So You, Me, and Our ADHD Family is the book of my personal journey, really. I don't know if it read like that for you, but it was a deeply personal
Yeah.
experience.
Yes. And one of the questions that I had here, and that will be appropriate now because you gave me the lead for it, was um, how did your family react to this kind of window that you opened to the world about
Yeah.
about yourself and your family?
Well, my children are absolutely loving. Um, I always ask their permission. Um, I do write about them in the first book, but I use a code. So anytime you see certain characters with certain names, it's referring to an experience that child had. My second book, I name names. So I talk about my daughter Brooke and observations she
Hmm.
made. Um, and they're just proud of me, and they're
As
awesome.
they should be.
I they're just these wonderful humans. They're we're all like ride or die for each other, and I feel that in my family, so that's great. Um, I'll be really honest. The I haven't said this out loud, let alone on a podcast, but I'll say it anyway. Uh, Before You, Me, and Our ADHD Family came out, my editor, the acquisitions editor, called me and she's like, "Hey, I love what you're doing here. For the preface, you write about your mother. Do you have to get her permission?" By the way, I didn't say anything unkind. I was making sure. And I just said, you know what, truthfully, she hasn't talked to me in, I don't know, 15, 16 years. She's not part of my life. I don't talk about it in the book, but that was a hard thing.
Sure.
And you know, and I really softened what happened in my life as a kid there. So, you know, if it was at a 9, I really softened the story to like a 4. And the editor's like, "Oh." And she was quiet for a little bit. She went, "How did you turn out normal?" And I just laughed because I didn't turn out normal, guys. This is just a lot of work and a lot of self-development and therapy. So,
Right.
um, and I just share all that to your readers because sometimes when we're talking about families, we're not related to the nicest people. And it's hard for
Mm,
us. And we feel broken because we're not happy in our families. So I just want to give you guys hope that it starts with you.
love it. I love the hope. You remind me that, the Japanese technique where there's like a broken bowl and they fill it with gold.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so I think that you're working very hard to fill those cracks with really good therapy and thoughtfulness and kindness and helping others, and that's your gold.
Yeah.
And it's not the perfection that creates this amazing piece. It's the hard work that you have to build from the cracks.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And I love you adding that insight there because that's truly my belief. The first 40 years of my life was really difficult. And I've spent the second half of my life trying to help people learn the things I had to learn the hard way and to walk beside people who are scared, who are lonely, and who aren't very kind to themselves. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Danielle, for pointing that out.
Well, thank you for sharing that with the rest of the world because it's not an easy thing to expose, and we do much appreciate it. And it leads me to one of my next questions, which are what would be the smallest shift someone can do to switch focusing on the person and the shame to switching to the cycle of problem solving that you talk about with like small shifts some listener can take from here if they read the book or
Yeah.
didn't read the book that they can take
Hmm.
to their life to be able to do what you're doing, shifting from the shame and the stuck into the problem solving.
Yeah. So the biggest thing you can do is just be aware of your emotional state.
Mm.
Because when we have ADHD, look, we have big feelings galore. I have feelings about everything, right? I didn't even tell I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't know that was abnormal, right? Both my parents have ADHD. They had big feelings about everything. And so I have big feelings like I have this little squishy ball on my desk, right? And sometimes I just don't like the end of this squishy ball. I'm like, gosh, I wish they would have finished this differently, right? I have a feeling about a squishy ball and how it was manufactured. Yeah, I just admitted that. So I have feelings about dumb things. But now I'm like, oh, I have a big feeling. And then I'm like, well, it's kind of silly that I'm having a big feeling about this squishy ball. Tamara, you don't even have to have it on your desk. Oh, right. I don't. Well, I still like squishing it, so I guess I can get over that feeling. So notice I'm aware that I'm having a big feeling. I'm questioning
Hmm.
it. And then I'm like, I think I could move on from that big feeling. Now, my technique is to kind of tease myself to go, oh, you have a big feeling about a squishy ball, huh? Like, or, when I get angry when I stub my toe. By the way, I'm always barefoot. I break so many toes. I think it's part of my ADHD experience. Um, but instead of getting so angry at the couch for sticking its leg out and tripping me, I'm like, well, that just happened and it hurts like heck. Let's keep moving on. So I acknowledge it. I don't stuff my feelings. I just acknowledge what's happening. And then I try to shift as quickly. As long as I stay in this emotion, I'm not going to be able to shift to problem solving. And sometimes I want to sit down and pout. You know what? I just want to pout and gripe and blah, 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 blah. Right. And so I'm like, oh, then I'm not ready to problem solve yet. And so I kind of enter this metacognitive process of eventually, though, you will have to enter problem solving, right, Tam? And I do a lot of talking to myself.
Oh, I love talking to myself. My
Oh,
grandma
yeah.
used to say it's the best conversation I have.
Almost made that joke. Yes.
Yeah, and she used to get so mad when anyone interrupt because she's like, I like, I'm having a great conversation. On
Yes.
the other
Yep.
hand, she would talk to herself negatively so much that
Yep.
you sometimes need someone to interrupt the cycle. And
We can't
someone,
afford that.
right.
Yes.
You need to I once was in the house preparing for a party and there was a little girl visiting and I was in the kitchen and I was like telling to myself, I'm doing my fucking best. Excuse my French. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. And this cute little kid turned around to me. I think she was about 5 and she's like, yes, you are.
Oh,
So
I love it.
I try to take that voice with me now when I go back to talking negative. I'm like, what would that little 5-year-old tell me?
Okay. Let's can we talk about that as a strategy?
Yes,
Because I use
yes,
this a lot with my clients. So in the first half of your brains are broke or you, me, and our ADHD, I talk about the monkey voices.
right. I
But
remember.
sometimes you don't have to go through all the symptoms. It's kind of an internal family systems way of looking at your symptoms. But I worked with one client who I said, well, let's just try to get your ADHD as a whole to have a voice. And I've worked with her now for about 6 or 7 years. And about a year or two, she's like, you know who my ADHD voice is? It's Captain Jack from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Yep. And so I'm like, oh. And so Captain Jack has stayed with her through this entire time. And she also has another voice in her head. And it's Dr. Tamara. And Dr. Tamara, she's internalized my voice. I'm like, oh, get rid of my Midwestern accent, would you, in the voice? She goes, nope, you have
No,
to have the. So sometimes the rule is in her brain, they can't talk to each other. She has to be the mediator.
like
So
that.
Captain Jack, imagine Captain Jack from Pirates of Caribbean. Like he gets that smile, that swagger, and he's like, you can stay up late. You can do whatever you want. And then Dr. Tamara says, but is that what you want to do? And then this client said, well, then I have to decide, like, am I going to let Captain Jack convince me? And so she has this conversation. Whenever we can have a conversation in our head, even imaginary, that really works for many of us with ADHD. And here's why. It engages the DMN network.
Mm,
And our DMN network is usually quite lively when you have ADHD. And so that's why many people, it can work for many.
I love that. I really love it.
Yeah.
And talking about things to work with for many people, I was wondering what you would say is the worst thing that you heard that doesn't work that you wish people stop telling people with ADHD.
Okay. Here's, here's, all right. Here's my little soapbox. Okay.
There you go.
A lot of people have ADHD. I or a lot of people have anxiety when you have ADHD.
Mm,
Okay. And we use ADHD as a motivator, the gasoline that we would pour onto a fire, right?
okay.
A lot of women are diagnosed only with anxiety because they don't see what's running the anxiety.
Right.
That's
Because that's
called
what's
ADHD.
externalized. Yes.
Exactly. Here's my pet peeve. When people are helping, now this isn't generalized anxiety disorder that we're talking about. This
Right.
is, we're trying to use it as an artificial well, it's a motivational technique that's gone wrong, right?
Hmm.
So people would say, imagine anxiety. What would you say to anxiety? And I've heard therapists say, just scream, get out of here and yell at the anxiety. Okay, you never yell at anxiety. So what you want to do is you imagine anxiety sitting down and you're like, oh, anxiety, you're here. What are you trying to do? Because the anxiety is trying to help you in some way. So just be curious and ask why she's there instead of trying to yell at it. When you yell at parts of yourself, you're actually hating yourself, right? Instead, if we say, well, you're here to help me, what are
Mm,
you trying to help me to do? Oh, anxiety, can we do that differently? I see what you're trying to do. Let's do it differently.
I love it.
So
And I think
that's,
that could apply for a
that's,
lot of emotions that we're trying to artificially kick those emotion out instead of
yes.
processing them and understanding why they're there and what they
Yeah.
serve. Even shame has a social purpose originally,
Yeah.
and understanding that we're using it wrong at this point to overusing it.
For
It's,
overusing it. Yeah.
yeah.
So the other thing is, I don't like when people believe all of their emotions.
Okay.
This
Elaborate.
is all right. This is where millennials and Gen Zs don't really. They're like, whoa, I don't think I agree what you're talking about. But when you have ADHD, you have a surplus of emotions.
Okay.
Not all of them are believable. Okay. Not all of them should be acted on. Some of them are unreliable witnesses. And so it doesn't mean we yell at them or get mad at them. It just doesn't mean we take them for truth tellers.
Right.
So we have to be careful with our emotions. Go, yeah, that really irritated you, but that just irritated you because of this. Maybe that whole situation doesn't need to be addressed. So I'm saying we play the doubting and believing game with our emotions.
I get it. Not all emotions are reliable sources of information.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in our social media stream or our news, unfortunately, it's very hard to
Right.
tell sometimes what is reliable and what is not.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but I think that putting that grain of salt, saying that our ADHD brain can distort some information and distort our
Oh,
emotions too, is a really good point that I really appreciate.
yeah. And I feel emotion. And you know what I do? I write a beautiful story where I'm the hero. I'm the victim of this story, right? I'm the one who the couch did something wrong to. And so I really want people to question their emotions and question the story they're writing about the emotion. Maybe you're interpreting it. You had the emotion, but
Oh
maybe you
shoot.
interpret it wrong. Not wrong, but in an unhelpful manner. Yeah.
Um, I'll take this as an opportunity to ask you a few more questions before we run out of time,
Yeah.
and lose everyone's attention because a lot of our people in our audience have limited capacities. I don't know if everyone knows, but you know for sure that my big thing is memory. And specifically, I
Yeah.
love perspective memory. It's like how we remember the future. And
Yes.
I wanted your little insight on how these memory challenges affect the ADHD family dynamic. How do you see this in your everyday with your clients?
crying out loud. That's the one thing that I would change with my ADHD. Short-term and working memory is really bad, and guess what? Emotions trump it. So we can have this. Look, oh, you never told me this. Well, yes, I did. No, I didn't. Now we're in an emotional battle, right? Instead of going, oh, you did? Well, where was I? Maybe I can remember aesthetically where I was. So this causes huge problems to families. For people who don't have ADHD, they look at us and go, how can she be smart in this area, but not have a working memory, right? And maybe she just refuses to shut this car door because she doesn't love me. Here's a story that even neurotypicals can create. That's not the right story. It means that I went to get a glass and then I went over to the sink. I just didn't take time to shut the door. So this really does hurt families. Also, parents really want to know that the kids are okay. And so they'll say things like, okay, so next year we have to plan your classes. Well, that ADHD kid really cannot conceptualize next year many times, right? And then the parent kind of is infused with anger and anxiety, going, you have to think better. What about your future? And so our lack of vision into the future is hard. Um, Oh dear, just even trying to get out of the house at the same time, right? Just think of all the times. Getting out of the house requires memory. It requires foreplanning, and we're bad at all of it. And that causes struggles, and we bring those to the emotional realm.
Mm,
So that's how we end up not talking on the car ride to church because we're all angry with each other.
right. And I feel that one of one of my book readers in the book club, they said like, well, if I just remember this book Tamara wrote and I would remember it, and I'm like, well, put it where you can see it. Use it, assume that you're not going to remember it and just give yourself permission to
Yeah.
reread it, because every time you're
Yeah.
going to reread it, you're going to be exposing yourself as a new person, and it's great. And then remember that our memory is the default system is to forget. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't remember that our brain is designed to forget. So,
Yeah.
that is like
So
hard for us to remember.
yeah, well, and here's the thing. I honestly, it's one thing I wish I could change about myself is my memory. And I get so envious when I'm with, psychiatrists who can rattle off like, well, 15% of blah, 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 and 25, I, and I cannot do that. I just really have no memory to do that. And so I get frustrated with myself. But here's what I do when I want to learn something or remember something. I do the see one, do one, teach one method. So see one is I read it and then I do something with the information. So either I write it down in a different place, I post it somewhere, but I have to do something with the information that I'm actually changing the information a little bit.
Hmm.
And then the teach one is my poor husband has to hear what I learned. My dogs are in the room with me today. They've learned a lot too because that's my teach one. So I'm like, hey guys, I just read this chapter, and this is what this chapter is really saying. Here's how I think I'm going to apply this. So that's my secret of trying to get information to stick in my bean head.
Love it. I love that. Active learning basically is what you're talking about. And
It is,
I love it,
yes.
love it, love it. Um, so since we're going to run out of time, I'm going to take this opportunity to first, before you tell us what next you're doing, I want you to tell me, if you could go back and talk to your past self, what would you share from what you learned now about
Yeah.
ADHD and about life to your past self?
Okay, it's interesting you say this. I've actually done this. Um, and I'm going to get a little woo woo, but I have gone back in my mind and told 6-year-old self that the big feeling she's feeling is actually called hopelessness, because I felt hopeless when I was around 6 and 7. Um, and just to say, like, life is going to get easier. And it's going to get easier because you keep showing up and you're going to be okay. It will get better. And then I visited myself when I'm 12. And at 12, that's when I did run away from home because it was not a good situation. I ran away to a friend's house though, so I wasn't homeless. I wasn't that brave. But I just refused to go home until my mother signed over custody to my dad. And so for that 12-year-old, I say, you know what? That was your first time standing up for yourself. And you're going to have to learn that and get better at it because you want to people please, but that's okay. I see that glimmer of hope. And so I suggest people actually do this. Just go back at different times and go, "Atta girl, I see you," or "Atta boy, I see you." And you're going to need this in the future. Um, and the biggest thing, and I know this is going to sound corny, is at every age, I'd say, your brain's not broken. You're okay. You're not dumb. I thought I was dumb. Your brain's not broken. You're going to be okay.
I love it. I love it. And I agree. Your brain isn't broken and you are going to be okay.
Yeah.
What would you tell to your future self?
Okay, now this is where, and you know why. This is why I'm like, future self? Who's she? I don't even know her yet. And so what I have to do is I have to reverse into a time capsule. So if future me pulled out a time capsule, I'd say, hey, listen, you're old now. And I hope you are loving life. And I hope you still are embracing the adventure of life every day and don't let your world get that small.
Love it. Love it. And I would tell your future self, continue sharing your gifts with the rest of us because they're
Oh,
meaningful. They are meaningful. So keep on sharing them.
oh, thank you. That's so kind of you. That's so kind.
So where can people find you and what are you working on?
Well, I do have a new book coming. Well, I, I have a book coming out in the fall,
Ooh,
and it's the teen version of Your Brain's Not Broken. So it's written to teens and young adults. And my assignment was simple: take the original book, Your Brain's Not Broken, and just make a few changes. You know, you know where this is going, don't
so
you?
how much did you overwork it?
I rewrote everything.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
It follows. I love it. You're like, yeah, I know where this is going from a mile off. It follows the book of Your Brain's Not Broken, the adult version. But you and I both know that teens really kind of work through identity development. So I kind of applied some theories of that from that. So no, I reworked a lot, and it's a new book to me. But it was a lot of fun. I'm grateful it's coming out. I just saw the interior design of it today,
Ooh,
and they used a font, a serif font, without the little hooks at the end, and that's going to make it easier for readers. So
mhm.
I have a wonderful publisher who, when I said, "Hey, listen, teens have to have these things," they're really listening.
I
And they
love it.
laid the book out beautifully. There's illustrations in there. So I'm very happy with it.
Well, I can't wait to read it and hopefully maybe have you
Oh,
back here to talk about it.
anytime.
And where can people find you?
You can find me in two places. My author website is www.tamararosier.com. And I run the ADHD Center of West Michigan. That's www.michaelIADHD.com.
Perfect. And I'm going to remind people in the audience, if you're listening, that you can find me at ADHDtime.com. And if you loved this podcast, follow, share, leave comments and reviews because that's how I grow. And if you hated it, don't tell anyone.
It's yourself.
Exactly. Oh, thank you.